Welcome back, everybody, to the SAGAS Podcast. This is Corbin, the Serpent Tongue Skipwith.
And Ren, the Berserker Marabou. And this is...
SAGAS!
No!
We had to compromise on it because we couldn't get in unison, so this is the best we can do.
Yeah, we can't end sync. We're not Justin Timberlake, so...
I wish.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Yeah.
If you want to introduce the album.
Yeah, right, I'll do it. So, so this week we had the aural pleasure of listening to Shadows of the Dying Sun by Insomnium. No, not Insomnium. I was listening to them earlier as well. Insomnium. The Finnish melodic death metal legends, as they are. Yeah, bro, I love this album. It was my pick this week. I absolutely love this album for a long time. I'm not overly familiar with the rest of the back catalogue, but this album in particular was one that kind of like changed my direction as a musician. When I heard it, I was like, oh, right, this is nice. And it did. It inspired a lot of musical changes in my writing and stuff. So So what did you think as first listening to it, bro?
What did I think? Well, first thing I thought was it's very melodic. That's the first thing I thought, because even in the realm of melodic death metal, this is more melodic than the rest of them. That's what I thought. I was like, all right, this is more focused on melody. This is more focused on, sweet production. You got those clean vocals mixed in with the harsh vocals, and it's all very well done. And the one thing, I'm not sure why I didn't realize this earlier. Like, I don't know why it struck me to just now, but I was looking at it and I was like, 2014 this came out. So I Googled what albums came out in 2014. And, this is a Finnish band. So there was no albums by him, no albums by 69 Eyes, no albums by any of the major Finnish bands, Children of Bodom. So this album, especially in Finland, would have stood out like a shining gem, especially in 2014. Because I only saw a handful of albums, one of them being Behemoth's The Satanist album, which is a story for another time, but it's a terrific album. That came out the same year. But besides that, this album really stood out on its own for the year it came out.
Yeah, funny, I think it hit number 2 in the Finnish charts. So I think that could be for what you pointed out there. Yeah, I got to 38 in Australia. No, that was Austria. But yeah, no, it done really well on that. But it's interesting because it was mixed by a guy called Andre, and won't try and pronounce his surname. But he's a Swedish mixing legend. Actually, he's mixed so many incredible albums from bands like Opeth, the Monomart, Dimo Borgir, who we spoke about, Sepultura. So straight off the bat, he talked about production. It's they have a really interesting way of recording, but just putting the final touches. If Andre was working on it, it's going to be epic. Really knows how to really soundscape the whole track, and really make it a big epic sound. But then it was mastered in Finland, so you're talking Sweden and Finland, and the boys are actually scattered all over the place. I think there's only like 2 or 3 of them were living in the one location, and there's the two main guys, Nilo and Vil, who are the two main songwriters and vocalists. Nilo is the bass player. He's more like the front man that you see, but he's the kind of more recording element guy. He'll bring in that kind of production, because I think a lot of the production he would have done a lot of that as well. But Vil, the guitar player, he's got a really interesting kind of around not just his music, but around him as a person. He's a evolutionary microbiologist by day, and like a super metaler by night kind of thing. So he's in the UK, and he works in I think it's like the University of York. So he's like a proper intellect, and he's working on his evolutionary trailing back over history, and then he's hooking up with the boys, flying back to Finland to go and write some tunes. Like, it's pretty awesome. Like, pretty wicked contrast of personalities. But yeah, no, the two boys, they write separately, but they all come together. They'll send the tabs around to the other members, and then they meet up and they meet in the studio. And very little preparation, they can pull out something like this. It's absolutely outrageous. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely outrageous.
You know, that guy's backstory of being a super genius during the day and metal hero by night kind of reminds me of the guitarist of Queen. Isn't he like a super smart dude as well?
Yeah.
but yeah, no. See, to me, another thing that stood out about this album, every time, because I listened to this album like 3 times, but every time I listen to this album, I keep forgetting this is a Finnish band. They don't, to me, they don't sound anything like the common Finnish sound marks that I'm used to. They don't sound like any other band in that genre or in that country that I've heard of. So it's like, to me personally, they sound a more Americanized version of melodic death metal, which is interesting because, yeah, like I said at the very start when you asked me for my opinion, this is just so much more melodically focused than any other melodic death metal band I've heard of. Because normally, obviously, I assume if you're gonna be a melodic death metal band, you're gonna try be a bit of both, half melodic, half death metal. But to me, it sounded like 80% melodic and 20% death metal, which isn't a bad thing. I'm just saying it sounded very unique and very different than any other bands in that subgenre.
Yeah, they kind of they draw from a lot of different genres, these guys, which is really interesting. Like, I like to call them more melody metal.
Yeah,
I've never heard that phrase, but melody metal, like, it's just real crisp. But then you've got like the big beast vocals, you know, the deathcore vocals from Nilo. It's just and what's interesting as well is they're very much, you know, they're metal guys. You know, you know by looking at them, they're big burly Finland dudes. You know, with long hair, tattoos, the whole lot, all the black gear. But they sing, they write lyrics. The interesting thing is they all write lyrics in this band, which I find is very interesting, especially considering the lyric content, because it's very like somber and sad and the darkness of pain and loss, and, you know, even talking about nature. It's a real like strong portrayal of like sorrow and just mourning, if you will. But yeah, which is really interesting because then all of a sudden you hear them screaming, and like they're big, you know, big tough guys, and they wear their hearts on their sleeve, which is really cool. I find that really interesting. But yeah, I mean, like, as regards to the members of the band, you've got just absolutely sick talent, unbelievable talent. I think there was just before they recorded this album, they had another guitar player called Marcus, but he had to leave because do you know what he done for a living? He was a surgeon. So yeah, he was like some real, like, I don't know, a brain surgeon or something. So he was like, I can't commit my time. I need to focus on this career. And to me, that's, you know, he wanted to stick with this like helping humanity thing, which is really cool and really admirable. But I find it kind of sad in a way as well, because you see him now when he used to have long hair and he wore all the cool gear, and now he's just in his doctor scrubs with his tightly shaved hair, and he's all formal, and it's just mad. It's just mad to see. But they were brothers. He was in the band for 10 years, and they were sad to see him go. So it was literally just like, you know, I have another calling in life. He was a great guitar player, great member of the band. But they actually got real lucky because straight off the bat, then they got another guy called Marcus. Sorry, what's his name? Johnny. I think that was Johnny I was talking about a minute ago. But they got their current guitarist, Marcus Van Halla, which I love his name straight away because it sounds like Valhalla. So I'm like, yeah, he's kick-ass. But he's just this absolutely sick, badass guitarist that they brought into the band at a really kind of interesting time, because I think they really, after this album, things really started to change for them. They made so many waves after this, and then their album after this went even further, Winter's Gate. But One for Sorrow was the album before this, and there's a really interesting documentary about them as they're in the recording process of this. It's called One for Sorrow. I think there's like 3 parts. It's only half an hour long, but they're you get to see them behind the scenes in their day jobs, and then they're out, writing, and then they meet up and they're rehearsing in quite a modest rehearsal room, and it kind of shows, all the real work that goes into it. There's no roadies. They're setting up their own gear, the whole lot, and I think the drummer is gas. He's absolutely hilarious. Like, he's a real straight lace, no nonsense kind of dude. Like, he just like gets his job done, but he likes to do it in a more of a free kind of way, which I really like. He doesn't like the rigidness. So he's making up a lot of the stuff in the studio, which is really cool. But the guitarist's name was Vil as well. That's where I was mixing up the 2 Marcuses. There's 2 guys called Vil. But yeah, Vil was the surgeon guy. But the drummer is Marcus, and he is absolutely unreal. He says his job in the band is to write, what does he say exactly? Like, just mind-blowing drums. That's what he says. That's his job. And he does a great job at it too,
Yeah. I was going to say, having a surgeon as part of your band crew would be very useful. Like,
yeah, it would.
Like, if anything goes wrong, you just see him with the latex gloves. But yeah, as I said, when I was the whole time I was listening to this album, I couldn't help but feel to me, it just felt like really kind of what you said earlier, like a melodic. Well, to me, it sounded like kind of like melodic metalcore more than death metal, because, like, as you said, those sad introspective lyrics, and then you have the combination of one guy doing clean and one guy doing harsh vocals, which to me is very reminiscent of the metalcore screamo era of the mid to late 2000s. And then you have, like, to me, the production is just so overwhelming. It's so powerfully, like, so powerfully, like, I guess I'll say emotional, that to me it kind of takes over the album. And to me, like I said, the 80-20 balance, I feel that really strongly because I've listened to it, and, like, I'll be so caught up in the production, I'll be so caught up in the vibes, the aesthetic, more than I am the individual components of the drums, guitar, bass, whatever, because of just how strong the production is. Would you see? I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I mean, some bands do that well, and this is a good example. But I'm just saying, my 3 listens to it, it just felt like I was just being flooded with such strong production that it kind of made it hard for me personally to kind of focus on all the individual components.
Yeah, I can totally get that. I mean, like, it's interesting that you said screamo, metalcore, because there's one track in particular on the album. It's number 8, Ephemeral, or whatever it's called. It's a really strange curveball thrown in the mix there. The rest of the album has that more, typical Insomnium kind of sound, which is an epic sound. And this one just becomes this metalcore, bouncy, very hopeful, major chord screamo, like almost pop punk esque type, major octave runs, which is really interesting to throw in there.
Yeah.
It actually sounds like a different band. All of a sudden, you're like, "Whoa, I'm listening to a different band here."
Yeah.
Which is it's a really good song. It's a really strong song, but there's just those few major chords in that song, and you don't hear any major chords really in any other part of this album. It's really interesting. And then straight after, you've got the polar opposite. Yeah, the Promethean, Promethean
Promethean song.
Yeah, so I can't read my own handwriting here. The Promethean. That goes straight back into that slow, moody, kind of real thought-provoking kind of music with some real nice chunky riffs, and then it goes into the minor octaves. So it's like he's doing all these like moody esque guitar progressions, but then there's just they're the best. These guys do best of all is their lead guitar melodies. The lead guitar the melodies that these guys write, and on this song in particular, there's an absolutely beautiful melodic solo. I don't know, they just have a gift for writing melodies for guitars. There's a lot of the time you'd be like, these guys would be all right as an instrumentalist band. It's one of the key things that kind of grabs me, and every time I listen to them, I want to go and write some sad, beautiful melodies on the guitar. It's really cool. But I don't know what's Shadows of the Dying Sun. That track in particular. What do you think about that one? That's the album title track. Yeah.
I thought it was a really interesting song, and it's interesting that you kind of triggered a thought that I was supposed to bring up, which I don't know if I would have if you didn't bring it up, but it's just true that as I was listening to this album, I thought that the same thing you said, that to me this should have been this album anyway. I feel like this album would have benefited a lot more from being an instrumental album, because it has such a strong production, the title track is no exception. It's very powerful. It's very moving, and obviously the vocals aren't bad. But to be honest, if they just stripped the vocals and I just sat there with my headphones on listening to the instrumental, I feel like I'd have a better time just absorbing the aesthetics surrounding the song. So very powerful song, just like 9 of the 10 songs on this album.
Yeah, I mean, and it was the single. I don't know, While We Sleep was the single I'm thinking of now. But yeah, Shadows of a Dying Sun, it has that big, chunky, overdriven bass that I love at the start, with the big, solid drum beat. Straight away, that just drags me in, and I'm like, nice. And then there's all that lovely plucking guitar stuff, which is really reminiscent of like Finland style guitar playing. They've got this lovely dissonant plucking guitar stuff, which I always love. And then spoken word kind of vocals, that's kind of gravelly. And it just gives it that mysterious kind of vibe, And then it's just a huge chorus in that song. But it's a lovely way to end the album. But essentially, they didn't end the album there, because there's a bonus track, and the bonus track, the bonus track is Out to Sea, and to me, that's like one of their best songs, and overall, well, for me as well, like it draws me in because it sounds very Viking like, It's like one of those tracks, because he's talking about going out to sea on his boat, and it just sounds like a sad Viking singing a song, really. but yeah. So I think maybe if they were to rejig it a little bit and take put that one back into the mix and take out maybe, I don't know, Black Heart Rebellion, or even that one that we said is like a screamo song, Ephemeral. If they maybe made that the bonus track, I would have been happier to put Out to Sea as a album track. But that's interesting as well. Like, I mean, that's a really good song to put on a bonus track. Like,
wow, it's actually interesting.
It's really bizarre. But
Oh no, go.
No, go ahead. You were saying something's interesting, so I want to hear it.
Oh no, I was just thinking, like, this to me, what the formula they did on this album, kind of like, the thought I had was, this is what it would sound like if the band Tool decided to go fuck it, let's go metalcore. I feel like that's the same because they both have such powerful powerful production. Tool keeps it very simple, very, very larger than life and simple, while these guys are going a more melodic death metal route. But I just feel like it's the same kind of aesthetic, the same kind of vibe I get, like the powerful instrumentals and the powerful riffs. And yeah, so that's what I was thinking. I was like, if Tool took this direction of going metalcore death metal, it would kind of sound, I imagine, similar in vibe.
Yeah. No, I think so. Especially the opening track on this album, the Primeval Dark or Primeval Dark. Yeah, that's one of those. It's a real slow burner kind of opening track, and it really does give off the sense that they wrote it as an opening track. Like it wasn't wrote and then they actually thought this one through. It's a lovely slow burning track with a nice chunky riff. A slow burner for me can go one way or the other. I either lose interest or it draws me in. But this, you can hear that it's got like intention. You know, it's like we're here and we're bringing you into something special here. Like, and then straight off that, you know, it's all of a sudden, boom, you're onto the big single, While We Sleep, which is just absolutely phenomenal tune. Like, it's doing really well in the, you know, professional ratings as well. Like Loudwire gave it a 4 out of 5. Metal Storm gave it like a 9.5. Another crowd, I don't know who they are, about.com gave them a 4. So like they done really well in the, you know, professional ratings too. But everywhere you hear, I mean, I think there's a music video for the track, and I think the video has 13 million or something views. So even the video itself, so they put an awful lot into that track, into the promotion of that track, and then the video of the track and the artwork from the album features at the end of the video. There's like it's like a performance based, for anybody who hasn't heard it or seen it, it's like a performance based video with like an actress, and there's all this lovely surreal kind of blurry motion and smoke, and it's just like really artistic. And the song goes into this beautiful bridge where it's just like it just feels like you're just engulfed in beauty and magic. That lovely guitar melody later on, it sounds like something from like My Morning Jacket or something. It doesn't sound like them at all. It's really interesting, like really like reverb and delay guitars. And at the end of the video, then the actress in the video turns, and there's like the black sun with the birds flying around it, and it's just the album cover depicted in it. And I thought that was a really nice touch, because I don't think they made another video for this album. I think they made only a lyric video for Revelations. So they put all their eggs into the one basket for that one video. But yeah, no, it's just that I could talk about that song for days, and I might talk about that song later on. Yeah, like you know, Revelations is another absolutely sick tune. You know, it has some really serious drumming in it. I didn't count it, but he hits that snare so many times. It's just like pure blast. It's blasting beat type stuff, but it's got like a really interesting mix. It also has that Screamo Funeral for a Friend kind of sound thrown in there. You know, there's a couple of bits and pieces, but there's the lovely really nice melodic guitars. There's a sick breakdown with like a synth and a bass walk as well, which I absolutely love when you hear bands doing that, stripping it all right back. But then there's a top class solo. It just goes to show their level of guitar playing is like it's out of this world. They're technically brilliant band, and then they choose to write this really deep, heartfelt stuff, which can be interesting to some and not interesting to others, because there's a lot of purists, as you know, in the death metal kind of thing. But the interesting thing is, like, these guys would have gotten a bit of flack for the nicey nice, but melodic death metal kind of was like a resurgence for death metal, death metal was kind of, you know, and I might get shot down by a lot of purists here, but it was kind of on its way out. It didn't have the same kind of following as it used to. And then this kind of drew people back in, and people slowly got into melodic death metal, and then they started moving back into, you know, the pure death metal stuff. So there's a big props for bands like Dark Tranquility and these guys, and Arch Enemy, even. Like I think they're on the same label, actually. It's Arch Enemy, these guys. Century Media, I think they're
Century Media.
And Despised Icon is another sick band that's on that. There's just so many great bands on that label, and that could be another part of why you say they sound a bit more Americanized. You know, it could be that, and it could be also the fact that your man lives in England, Bill, as well. So yeah, no, it's really interesting. Like, I don't know. I feel like I've been waiting the whole episode to talk about Devil's Advocate, just because I want to talk about one song. Like straight off the bat, I was going to ask you earlier. I was going to say, can we go straight into Devil's Advocate?
Hey, well, we can do whenever you want. I'm not.
Yeah. Nah, there's no rush. I'm really excited about this one in particular song. But there was quite a lot of nice uses of piano at the end of songs. Did you notice that as well? It's just like they like to end the songs with like a lovely outro, which I really appreciate. You know, they like to transition a lot between songs, which I think is kick-ass. You know, it's a really nice way to you know, milk out the song, even. You know, just give it its time. Collapsing Words was a great song for me. It was number 6. It was when it really picked up the pace, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, interesting you brought up the whole, you know, purist and the melodic death metal. It's like, to me, I'm pretty sure I've said this too many times already on this podcast, but to me, this is, well, not softer, but this is more mellow than most other melodic death metal I've heard. So, like, you know, if you compare this album to like old school Arch Enemy or like any Children of Bodom album, you can hear the difference of just the difference in aggression, the difference in just brutality that Children of Bodom or Arch Enemy brings. So I think for them to take the direction they took on this album to make it, I feel like a few tiers more mellow than normal, or a few tiers more melodic than normal. I feel like, you will have a point of some purists would be like, all right, we can put up with Children of Bodom because they still maintain that aggression. We can put up with Arch Enemy, same reason. But then when you start dialing it down to a more melodic centered structure, that's when people can be like, all right, well, you may as well not even call yourself death metal anymore because it's just become melodic metalcore, which, like, I mean, look, like, I'm not saying this is a bad album. I'm just saying, like, I feel like compared to other albums I've heard in the past, and I haven't heard all, but compared to most albums I've heard in the melodic death metal genre, I would kind of not agree, but I would understand why some purists or some fans of death metal will look at this kind of album and go like, oh, this is a bit softer than what I'm used to. This is more this, more that. So, you know, I might listen to other albums, but I'm just saying I would understand if that was their perspective.
Yeah, no, it's totally fair. I mean, I think it's like an intentional thing that these guys do. They really do like to milk the melody side of things. I think it's just because they're that good at writing that stuff. You know, as a death metal vocalist, you know, he's on the ball. He's flawless. He goes from the start of the album to the end of the album, and I listen to him intently. There's no cracks. He doesn't balls up in any way, and it's not like they spent a long time on the production either. Probably the part of the album that got the most work was the mixing side, but you know, I think what they do, they're really good at what they do, and the fact that they are apart and they work so well together from that distance, you know. It's interesting that they are a little bit more melodic, and I've tried to figure out what it is. Maybe they're just really sweet guys, you know, but they don't look it when you see them on stage, man. They're like, you know, balls out, and they're headbanging and screaming, and then the lovely melodic bits. They do some nice acoustic stuff too. In some sets, they do. The two guitarists will come out, Marcus and Vil, and they'll just do like an acoustic. And Vil is the clean vocalist, and it's really different throw in the middle of the set from all the other stuff. I think it's really interesting that they instead of just using that stuff sparingly, they know what they're good at, and they do that bit as much as they can. But then again, they can't be full on melodic, because you know, Nilo's voice is, like I said, you don't need to be any better for a death metal vocalist, you know. But speaking of bands, other bands, you know, the artwork was made by a guy called Willie Nakarian. I cannot say his name, but he is I think he's a guitarist from Ghost Bridge or Ghost Brigade. And Ghost Brigade are another one of those really cool bands, very similar style to these guys. I just found it interesting that he made that artwork because it's really nice. And that's the one that features at the end of the track, the single on the video. It's just really cool because they're in that world, you know, of all the melodic death metal guys. And I think it's really cool that Nilo is he's endorsed by ESP Guitars, which, you know, straight away affiliates him with the heavier side of things. And then Bill, the guitar player, is with Cap Harrison guitars, which I'd never heard of before, but he uses them, but then he uses other guitars too. But he's a PV 6505 plus player. So anybody that knows anything about metal knows that a PV 6505 is like, you know, a monster in the guitar head world. So yeah, it's like they have this lovely side of them, but then they have the beast side of them. They're kind of like Hulks in a way. They're real nice, real sweet, but they have that burning metal desire and passion in them as well, which I really love, because I have that going on in myself too, so I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like The River was another really nice song. A lot of people say The River should have been taken out and the bonus track put in place of it. But I think there's definitely other tracks that could have been taken out instead of The River. I think The River is like, dare I say, it's like their stairway to heaven.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
It progresses and progresses, and it's just an absolute mood fest. You know, it's a feast of moodiness. You know, it's a very, very Opeth type cleans in that track. You know, there's the lovely acoustic picking and the melodies in that track for the vocals. It's just unreal. Like it gives you goosebumps. Like, and there's a lot of tension, and then it gets real groovy. It's got everything, that track, for me.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, before we start on Devil's Advocate, did you want to do like shout outs and promotions?
Yeah, well, you go ahead, bro. You've got some nice announcements there, I think.
Well, really just one. But all right. Well, before we do Devil's Advocate, just bring up the usual. I'm doing reviews again, so go to Relentless Reviews of Corpus on Facebook and shout me a message on. You'll find my Facebook, Corpus Skipwith, on as the admin. Go there, send me a message, and it doesn't matter if it's a single, EP, mixtape, album. I'll do it all. Live album, I'll even do that. I'll even do live interviews if you need them, and I can do written interviews, and I can even do audio-only interviews. It doesn't really matter. I'll hook you up. And as far as sponsorship goes, I've only got one: the beautiful people at the Gas Digital Network. So what that is, it's a place where you can get tons of podcasts, specifically my favorite, The Legion of Skanks. So The Legion of Skanks are a podcast that are, in my opinion, the last true medium of freedom of speech. They do dark humor, which is the way I like it, because I'm sick of censorship and I'm sick of everyone having to worry about what they say and can't say this and that. But this podcast has three amazing comedians talking about current events to the most ridiculous shit you can think of. And it's all funny, it's all hilarious, and they never censor themselves when they do it, which is why I support them. And that's why you should too. Go to the Gas Digital Network, subscribe to their stuff, and you'll get tons of other podcasts, including Aaron Berg's Berg Bass, who was another comedian who does the funniest, most raunchy podcast ever, where he combines skits with bringing in guests and asking the most ridiculous questions. It's all amazing. All the podcasts on there are amazing, and you should go check them out if you support freedom of speech, just like I do. Back to you, Ren.
Nice. Yeah. No, I concur. You know, PC out. PC out. That's my addition to that, brother. Yeah. No, check them out. Hilarious stuff. I really love them guys as well. Yeah. Well, my next protocol after this is to change some strings on my guitar for recording. So I may as well shout out to Skull Strings for all the love and all the lovely strings that they've thrown my way. Yeah, they are designed for heavy guitar players, and they do the job because I whack the shit out of my guitar and those strings are solid out. Like, so highly recommend everybody goes and buys themselves a set of Skull Strings. And if you fancy, you can buy my signature set, 10 to 48. So, yeah, Devil's Advocate, brother.
Advocate. I always say I'm going to add a bell, and I always forget.
We'll buy a bell eventually, we will.
Yeah. We'll set up in the room and just bring it. So, who wants to start?
Yeah, you go ahead, bro.
Okay, so for my least favorite song, I think you'll agree with me on this, even though we didn't touch on it too much. But my worst song, Black Heart Rebellion. I just look again. Very few times are we going to come across an album where the song's horrendous. I don't think we'll ever end up doing that, but we have to choose one. So for me, Black Heart Rebellion, I just feel like the length doesn't justify the song, or the song doesn't justify the length. 7 minutes and 3 seconds, and if it was a little bit shorter, and it's just I feel like it's too long, and it doesn't have enough oomph to keep me occupied for the length it's presenting with. So for me, it's really the length that like kind of drags on to me. I mean, the song "The River" is 7 minutes and 57 seconds, but at least it's engaging. At least it has more substance, which is why I don't mind it. But for the 7 minutes and 3 seconds, it just feels like a snooze fest. Unfortunately, I have to say it. But for me, the best song, which is a song we didn't even bring up at all, is "Lose Tonight." That is the 5th track, and I just love how melodic it is. I love the clean vocals on that. I love how what's the word? I love how kind of dreamy it feels. It's really like a lucid dream in a way. It's very it showcases the best of the melodic structure that they bring to the table, in my opinion. And like I said, mixed out with the clean vocals, you just have a recipe for a creative success, and that's what I feel is the best song on this album.
Excellent. Yes, I totally agree with you. I think that's a beautiful song, man. It really is. It would have been one of my favorites as well. One just pegged it for me just a little bit. But that song in particular, yeah, I love the lyric line. It's something like "the day, lose tonight," So it's kind of like it's even the day is sad with these guys because it's turned into night. Yeah, I mean, like, my least favorite track, I 100% agree with you, brother. And the interesting thing is, I don't even know if anybody even realizes that we don't discuss our favorite or least favorite songs during the week. We save it for a surprise for each other. But like this time, we nailed it on the head again for Black Heart Rebellion. It is technically it's a very good song. It's just, for me, it's the vibe. The vibe just brings it a little bit too it's a bit too emo-y for me. Like there's this particular guitar style that I'm sure many people that listen to metal are familiar with it, but it's just like it's hitting like say like a high note, maybe like a G or something, and you're just strumming that particular note for ages, and it gives this like you know, depressed teenage kind of vibe to it. Like it's the only way I can describe it. Like but as soon as I heard that technique being used on the song, I was like, ah, right. It sounds like something that you'd write when you were in your early stages of writing. Like, no offense, it's just that one. I like it to a little extent, but they just overused it. And I'm just not a fan of that, really. The rest of the song after, say, like towards the end, the song kind of picks up and it gets a little better. But that one, it was more of the feel, the vibe of the song. It wasn't that it was technically bad. There's really good drumming in it and stuff. And it's just that the choice of technique on the guitar is what kind of drew me back from it, like, So, yeah, without ripping into it too much, because it is technically great and I'd be lucky to write something like that myself. But, it's has to be, because it's surrounded by a lot of beautiful songs. And so the one you picked as your favorite was on my list of favorites, along with Collapsing Words in the River. But see, I have two favorites here, but one isn't on the album. It's a bonus track, so I couldn't pick that one. So it would have been Out to Sea, but it didn't make it on the album, strangely enough. But While We Sleep, for me, was the song on this album that catapulted the band, catapulted the album, really put it into it. It could be because it got all the attention, it got the music video, it got all the promotion, became the single. But it is actually a really good song. It really stands out. It's like it just has everything. It's beautiful, tragic, hopeful. It has like absolute epicness in every angle of this song. The clean guitar, the double vox, the single, like I said, the great video. There's a real nice smooth tempo to it as well, where it hits this like halftime in the middle, like I was saying. That guitar stuff that's like My Morning Jacket kind of stuff. I absolutely love that. It's less technical, more relying on effects and loops and whatever, but it really comes across magic and out of nowhere on this track as well. Like, and even the video changes up. There's more color involved in it, and the costume design and stuff. It really was just a beautiful